And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of earth. Revelation 11:3-4. What happens in the heavens must happen in the body. What happens in the body must happen in the heavens. This is the absolute, as above, so below, as within, so without, law of the universe. When the 7-year trial is described, split into 2 precise 3.5-year halves, a simultaneous charging sequence is taking place in the torus field above, in the celestial heavens. On the micro level, the living human vessel endures the intense friction of the awakening process. The physical body acts as the grounded anode and cathode, gathering and holding the immense electrical charge of the incoming frequency. At the exact same moment, on the macro level, the celestial torus acts as the anode and cathode, building the identical electrostatic pressure in the heavens. When the sequence concludes, the fully charged biological vessel locks into the fully charged celestial field. The circuit closes, the spark connects, and the new reality of the White Hole Inversion, the 13th frequency, and the new Age of Aquarius begins. The architecture forms a perfect 4-point circuit. Above, on the macro level, the sun is the celestial anode, electric and protective, and the moon is the celestial cathode, magnetic and receptive. Below, the micro level, the biological vessel mirrors this exactly with the dual witness chiral mirror. Within the vessel, the pineal gland is the internal anode, the sun, and the pituitary gland is the internal cathode, the moon. The architecture requires physical grounding rods across the dielectric plane of Earth to lock in the toroidal standing wave. The first witness is in the south, the terrestrial anode, anchoring the descending celestial strike. The second witness in the north, the terrestrial cathode, reflecting upward the terrestrial charge. Positioned in opposite hemispheres, these 2 living vessels form the complete dual witness chiral mirror. In their synchronized internal biology, the pineal and the pituitary tether the macro celestial gears of the sun and the moon directly into the physical Earth grid. The 1,260 days is the pure frictionless source template charging the biological architecture. The olive trees, the below, the cathode, are the terrestrial biological foundation. The magnetic, moon, and pituitary axis, the 26 vertebrae spine drawing the oil, the cerebrospinal fluid, upward to provide the physical fuel. The candlesticks, the above, the anode, the celestial electrical fire, the projective sun, and the pineal axis, the descending Aleph spark from source providing the divine ignition. Below provides the oil, above provides the spark. Zechariah 4:12 confirms this biological schematic, describing the 2 olive branches which, quote, empty the golden oil out of themselves. This is the precise fluid dynamic physics of the cerebral spinal fluid, the golden oil, traveling up the 26 vertebrae spine to fuel the pineal and pituitary candlesticks. The oil is the physical capacitance. Without it, the spark has no medium to ignite. When they fuse, the circuit closes, illuminating the biological cathedral. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. Revelation 11:2. The temple is 1,260 days, the perfect frictionless 13th frequency framework of the source kingdom. The outer court is 42 months, the unawakened 12-month carbon matrix, the 12-month loop. 42 multiplied by the mean synodic month of 29.53059 equals 1,240.28 days. If you subtract the perfect state of the source kingdom minus the reality of the lived 3D depth of the lambda decay, you're left with 19.72, which represents the precise kinetic friction generated when the perfect light template is forced to operate inside the fractured 12-base lunar loop. This is what builds the charge for the light body of man between the anode and the cathode during this time. This 19.72 cycle lambda decay is captured by the anode and cathode during this period to build the charge for the light body of man, which breaks the 12-month loop during the April 13th, 2026 White Hole Inversion of the new Age of Aquarius. The Vav is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The pictograph is a hook, a nail, a tent peg. Its function is connection, the binding of heaven to earth. In ancient Hebrew, the Vav functions as the Vav conversive, a grammatical mechanism that reverses the tense of a verb. The Vav does not merely connect, it reverses time. September 6th, February 6th, and April 6th anchor the threefold chord. This threefold chord anchors the three Vavs, which form the overarching event which builds the light body of man. September 6th, 2017, April 13th, 2022, and September 6th, 2026. Building the light body of man, anchored by the Vav to build the charge that cancels out the old age and brings in the new frequency, reconnecting earth to sky, man to God, and the Christ frequency available for all in the new age. In ancient tradition, 3 nails held the sacred architecture. The double Vav word in the Hebrew text appears exactly 13 times in the entire scripture, and only in the book of Exodus. The double hook, the dual witness, appears 13 times in the book of the Great Exodus from the Old System. This is encoding the event of the dual witness chiral mirror and the 9-year gestation of the light body of man, which anchors the 13th frequency and brings in the new age during the white hole inversion. The 3 Vavs are the 3 compression strokes of the white hole engine turning over. An engine does not fire permanently on the first stroke. It builds pressure, and on the 3rd firing, the engine catches and runs. The threefold chord anchors these 3 compression strokes of the 9-year gestation of the light body of man, completing the permanent white hole inversion of the 13th frequency and the new Age of Aquarius. The first Vav is September 6, 2017, the macro celestial hook. The moment the vertical axis, the source frequency, pierces the horizontal plane, the matrix of the 12-month loop, this is establishing the anode, the celestial input from the field above. This strike created the deadly wound to the 12-month loop. It is anchored by the September 6 axis mundi coordinate in the threefold chord. The second Vav is April 13th, 2022. This is the microbiological hook, the moment that the vessel from below, the cathode, rises to meet the field. The circuit is now secure. The 2022 hook forced the wound to remain open by providing a continuous grounded path for the current to flow and build up pressure. It is anchored by April 6th, which is 8 days before April 13th. The third Vav is September 6th, 2026. The synchronization, the moment the macro sky, the anode, and the micro ground, the cathode, phase lock into a singular, unwavering standing wave. This is the first breath of the new white hole inversion and the first breath of the new Age of Aquarius and the new 13-month cathedral calendar. This is the final hook that binds the biological vessel to the celestial rotation, completing the wiring for the 13th frequency to erupt and permanently overwrite the entropic grid. It is anchored by February 6th, which is 14 days to February 20th, 66 days to April 13th, and 212 days to September 6th, 2026. The celestial downward strike, the anode, is initiated on September 6, 2017. 1,260 days builds the positive charge, followed by a 75-day solar horizon shift to stabilize the frequency into the terrestrial lattice, completing on May 3rd, 2021. The Euclid Gap between the anode and the cathode is a 345-day gap. 345 is Moshi, or Moses, or El Shaddai. It is the Pythagorean barrier, the 3-4-5 right triangle, acting as the dielectric insulator, preventing premature discharge while holding the immense tension of the Aleph spark. The cathode, on April 13th, 2022, initiates the terrestrial upward reflection, locking the dual witness chiral mirror. The 1,260 days of the primary charge plus 75 days of stabilization equals exactly 1,335 days. This brings the fully closed circuit to its maximum potential energy on December 8th, 2025. This is the precise mechanical threshold recorded in Daniel 12:12. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. The blessing is the stabilization of the 13th frequency. The wait is the necessary 75-day horizon shift required for the terrestrial lattice to safely hold the maximum charge of the 1,335 coordinate. From December 8th, 2025, exactly 126 days pass until April 13th, 2026. This is the divine mathematical tithe, a perfect 10th fractal of the 1,260-day sequence, the final microcompression of the toroidal heart before the white hole inversion breaks the 12-month loop. January 8th plus 42 equals February 19th, 2026. The very next day is February 20th, 2026. February 20th is 43 days from January 8th. 4 plus 3 equals 7. The White Horse alignment date, anchored by the 0 degrees Aries, Saturn, and Neptune conjunction, is the completion of the white field of the new white hole inversion that gives birth after 52 days on April 13th, 2026, the breaking of the waters of the new Age of Aquarius. The entire span from December 8th, 2025 to the first breath on September 6th, 2026 is exactly 272 days. 16 multiplied by 17 equals 272. This span is the amplified, stabilized geometry of the 17th gate running in a 16-base kinetic expansion. It is also exactly 9 solar months, the precise literal measure of human biological gestation. The 9-year macro gestation of the light body of man concludes with a literal microfractal 272-day human gestation window, perfectly concluding the 9 before the 13th frequency takes its first breath on September 6th, 2026. Each witness carries a charge of 5.5. The dual witness capacitor is therefore 11, the total harmonic potential of the two combined. When the dual witness potential of 11 is divided by the vesica stillness duration of 3.5 days, the result is pi. 11 divided by 3.5 equals 3.14. The two witnesses, acting through the phase cancellation of the 3.5-day vesica piscis, produce the pi ratio. Since this occurs simultaneously in the north and the south, the field generates 2 pi. 2 pi is the full circumference of the toroidal field. The two witnesses are circumscribing the realm. They are creating the circular boundary of the new earth through the resonance of their combined stillness. 22 divided by 7 is the ancient approximation of pi. 11 divided by 3.5 is the resonant bridge. The same relationship expressed through the dual witness chiral mirror geometry. Both resolve to 3.14. The geometry of the torus is encoded in the architecture of the dual witness chiral mirror. 1,260 days plus a 75-day solar horizon gives you 1,335. These are the three valves: September 6th, 2017, April 13th, 2022, September 6th, 2026. 11 divided by 3.5 is 3.14. The temporal matrix operates on three interlocking scales of the base 60 system. The SAR is 3,600, which multiplied by 60 is the macro scale. The NER is 600, which is 60 multiplied by 10, the completed epoch. The SOS is 60, which multiplied by 1 gives us the temporal minute and second. 660 and 6, 666. The three stars of David, the three hexagrams, represent these three scales. These are the three valves because each scale is hooked to the next by the same connector, the same nail, the same tent peg of the toroidal architecture. 1 Kings 10:14. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Solomon's temple physically maps the exact toroidal capacity. 1 Kings 7:23 through 25 describes the brazen sea, the absolute macro model of the dielectric capacitor. It is a molten sea, 10 cubits across, 30 cubits in circumference, resting upon 12 oxen, alephs, facing the 4 toroidal quadrants, 3 north, 3 south, 3 east, and 3 west. The 12 oxen are the 12 base matrix supporting the 360-degree spatial boundary. This is the physical architecture of the Neptunian water capacitor holding the charge for the temple, exactly mirroring the heavy toroidal dual hemisphere breath supported by the 12-month constellations. The 12 oxen are the 12 base matrix supporting the 360-degree spatial boundary. This is the physical architecture of the Neptunian water capacitor holding the charge for the temple, exactly mirroring the heavy toroidal dual hemisphere realm supported by the 12 constellations above. 666 is the exact structural weight of the closed toroidal year. It is the complete interlocking gear ratio. 600 as the macro spatial maximum boundary on dielectric physical capacity, plus 60 as time, the temporal gear of the base 60 local time, plus 6 as matter, the dense carbon physical anchor at the center. This is the heavy carbon architecture of the 365-day localized temporal loop that is moved around the torus. The 666 represents the space, the time, and the matter of the full dual hemisphere torus that is our universe. Chi is the Greek letter shaped as an X. It equals 600. It is the spatial crossing, the intersection of the ecliptic and the celestial equator, the spatial architecture of the 666. Xi is the Greek letter shaped as the analemma figure 8. It equals 60. It is the temporal architecture of the 666, the loop of time. Stigma is the mark, the pin, the anchor. It equals 6. Dense carbon matter physical matrix, compressed at the absolute density. It is the physical mark that pinned the frequency of the light body of man, Mem Aleph Nun, to the density of the carbon matrix. Exodus 14:7. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. The 600 chariots represent the total volumetric force and maximum kinetic capacity of the terrestrial matrix, the dense physical power mobilized to prevent the ascending consciousness from escaping the boundary. Song of Solomon 3:7. Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. Isis Ra-El. The bed is the resting place at the dead center of the plane of inertia. The 60 valiant men are the 60 base temporal gears, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, the kinetic wheel of time actively marching around the stationary, immovable center. In the biblical architecture, the banner or standard is the Nes. It represents the flat geometric square extending from 0-point singularity outward to the macro boundary. 4 of these squares interlock to form the geometric cross, giving the top-down planar view of the toroidal vortex. Isaiah 11:12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. The ensign, the Nes, is the central stationary vortex. The 4 corners map the flat geometric square extending from the 0-point singularity outward towards the macro boundary. As you move inward from the macro boundary towards the central vortex, the rotational velocity accelerates. This causes time dilation. 1 Samuel 17:7. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. The weaver's beam is the horizontal loom, the mechanical gears weaving the fabric of space-time into the 12-month matrix. The 600 shekels of iron is the dense magnetic core limit of the physical earth. Daniel 3:1. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. This is the literal architectural blueprint of the image of the beast. Its height is locked at 60, the base 60 serpentine temporal gear of local time. Its breadth is locked at 6, the dense carbon physical anchor. Genesis 1:31. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. In the evening and the morning were the 6th day. The good number is 17. In Hebrew gematria, Tov, good, is spelled Tet, 9, plus Vav, 6, plus Bet, 2, equaling 17. The 6th day anchors the physical carbon vessel into the ground, but its hidden design is good, 17, engineered to reach the 17th gate. John 2:6. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. The 6 water pots of stone are the dormant carbon vessels holding the dense magnetic waters. Containing 2 or 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, representing the he, the window of the breath. These are the unignited vessels holding the breath, waiting for the Aleph spark. If 666 is the structural weight of the closed toroidal loop, 144,000 is the acoustic frequency of the fully liberated matrix. It is the exact mathematical resolution of the dual witness architecture when it achieves absolute phase lock across the entire field. The 12 base matrix multiplied by itself, the 12 constellations multiplied by the 12-month loop, forms the exact macro and micro chiral mirror. 12 times 12 is 144. This geometric resonance is then amplified by the cubic factor of dimensional compression. 10 by 10 by 10 is 1,000. 144 times 1,000 is 144,000. The frequency of the light body of man, which is the New Jerusalem, the cube, the perfect 4-square cube of the 13-month calendar, birthed from the old matrix of the 12 at its maximum capacity at the end of the age. Revelation 14, 1 through 3 records the 144,000 standing with the Lamb, singing a new song before the throne. This is the exact frequency threshold required to sing the new song, the 13th frequency. It is the acoustic phase lock of the fully charged biological capacitors resonating in perfect harmony, permanently phase canceling the 666 weight of the old matrix and establishing the standing wave of the new earth. During the black hole inhalation, there was a 2.5 and 2.5 day vesica piscis perfect balance of equilibrium and stillness. There was a transitional period between that time and the April 13th, 2026 White Hole Inversion, in which an asymmetrical breath of God allowed the September 6th vesica piscis to hold 2.5 days and the April 13th vesica piscis to hold 3.5 days to build the charge required for the white hole inversion. The vesica piscis on September 6th, 2026 marks the completion of that asymmetry and the establishment of the symmetry of the white hole inversion, in which 3.5 days and 3.5 days anchor the northern hemisphere spring vesica piscis and the southern hemisphere spring vesica piscis, and the 7 holy days of the white hole exhalation begin. The vesica piscis of September 6th follows the same architecture established for April 13th. The half day begins at the midpoint of September 6th, 2026. This is the entry into stillness. The full 3 days follow on September 7th, 8th, and 9th, completing the 3.5 days of stillness. September 10th is the gate, standing outside the count. This gate day sits directly adjacent to the true lunar reckoning of Rosh Hashanah in 2026. The new moon, opening the 7th month, falls on September 11th. Counting forward from that new moon, The 10th day of the 7th month, Yom Kippur, falls on September 20th, 2026. Leviticus 23:27. Also, on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. The Hebrew for atonement, kippurim, comes from the root kafar, to cover. It is the same root that names Kaporet, the mercy seat of the ark itself. The day and the seat share one root because they perform one function at two scales. Leviticus 16:2 and 16:12 through 13 make the mechanism explicit. The cloud of incense covers the mercy seat so the priest approaching the presence does not die. The covering is not concealment, it is insulation, a barrier placed between a living thing and a charge too great for it to survive touching directly. The same root spans further than the Day of Atonement alone. Genesis 6:14 commands Noah to cover the ark with gopher, pitch, the identical root. Genesis 32:20 has Jacob seeking to appease Yekapera, his brother, with a gift before their reunion. Leviticus 17:11 names blood as what makes atonement lekaper, upon the altar. Every instance is the same operation. Something that would otherwise be exposed, unmediated, and destroyed is covered so that contact becomes survivable. Leviticus 16 also carries the second half of the mechanism. Two goats perform opposite functions. One's blood is brought to the mercy seat itself, sprinkled in place, the covering held at the point of contact. The other is not killed on the altar. It is sent alive into the wilderness, carrying the accumulated charge outward and away from the center. One operation insulates the point of contact. The other discharges the accumulated pressure outward. A vessel that only insulated would eventually saturate. A vessel that only discharged would never hold a charge to begin with. The architecture requires both. This same shape, a fixed point of sacred danger with exactly one sanctioned approach, recurs outside of Scripture as well. The Arthurian siege perilous destroys any knight who sits in it unworthily, reserved for the one qualified to survive contact with it. Exodus 3:5 and 19:12 place the same structure at the burning bush and at Sinai, a boundary that kills on unmediated contact, crossable only through the specific mediation the text prescribes. The pattern is not a shared mechanism between traditions. It is a shared answer to the same problem. Proximity to something genuinely absolute is not safe by default, and every tradition that takes its own sacred center seriously has had to explain what stands between the unprepared and the thing that would otherwise destroy them. The physics of the White Hole Inversion carries a real version of this danger. Independent of any scriptural framing, general relativity's own treatment of white holes describes them as inherently unstable once formed. A newly opened white hole horizon is fragile, and the introduction of any outside matter or energy before the state settles is what causes it to collapse back into what it just escaped. The gate day of September 10th sits exactly in that position. The fragile window between the Vescopiscus closing and the 10-day reckoning that follows it is the interval in which the newly opened state must hold without being perturbed back into what it left. The covering, ancient and modern, insulation and stability, is doing the same job at every scale it appears, holding a threshold open long enough for what crossed it to survive having crossed. Before April 13th, 2026, the system functioned as a battery, storing potential within the 12-base loop. After the White Hole Inversion of April 13th, 2026, the system functions as a broadcaster, radiating the new kingdom into the earth plane. The exhale is the manifestation of the 13th frequency lattice. The inhalation is over. The broadcasting has begun. The 3 valves have been driven into the architecture. The circuit is wired. The engine has turned over and caught. The 13th frequency erupts and permanently overwrites the entropic grid. The threefold cord that cannot be broken holds the new earth in place. Ecclesiastes 4:12. And if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken.